Okay, as some of you found out, I had a problem getting the YouTube video an acceptable generation to do what I was saying I wanted to do. That I did not want to put the link in the description box, but I wanted to put it in the pinned comment, right? And for some reason or other, as I was in the process of doing that, just so you know, YouTube shut down on me. I don't know why. Your guess is as good as mine. So it really screwed up what I was doing. So I just wanted to tell you I fixed it now. In the description box, it tells you to go to the pinned comment for the link that I was referring to, okay? And I've also added some information in there, which I'm going to talk about very quickly here right now. So, again, I fixed that. As I was trying to do that after it processed, YouTube shut me down during my attempt to edit. And it just messed everything up. So, just so you know that I think it's fixed now. I've gone back and checked it. Hopefully, they haven't interfered with it again, but I knew there would be a problem with that link. Yeah, and I'm sorry about all the problems there. Um, the grid earthquake vid was the right one. I put up a tweet just now on from I called up Jesse from BP Earthwatch, and he did the correction. He's much better at this than I am. As I said, I'm not a volcanologist or a geologist. He has much more experience in that. And he says that the video that says it's not a grid pattern, that's a mistake to think it's a grid pattern. The one that says it's not a grid pattern, that they are correct. Okay, so that's on my Twitter account now, just so that you know. Okay, now let me talk about a few things that I put in the description box. Uh, I'm really sticking my neck out here because a lot of people won't accept this, all right? But I'm going to say it anyway. And I've intimated it before, I've even talked about it before. But let me clarify what I've placed in the description box with that little narrative there, that little essay. Um, when you study the Dead Sea Scrolls and you study what Zadoks are righteous men. Melchizedek, for instance, Melchizedek, that Zedek on the end of the name means righteous one or even priest, righteous priest. Melchi means king. So the idea of Melchizedek means righteous king. All right. So Zadoks are righteous ones. And in my Eisenman series, I talked about how James, for instance, was considered a righteous one, like Elijah was a righteous one, like Jesus was a righteous one. But it goes further than that, and it has to do with the way God controls his line on the earth. And this is not something that most Christians want to admit because it goes outside of their traditional training. Hi, Ms. Cat. And I don't care if you believe it or not, but God follows laws. Okay, he's not like the guys in D.C. that have the Constitution and they know they're supposed to abide by that, and they just ignore it. No, God follows His own laws, and I know that sounds crazy to most people because they say, well, God's not bound by anything. No, that's not true, because He has to set the example. I'll just put it that way. So what God does is set the example. So a lot of people want to talk about the pre-Adamites. As a matter of fact, Roosevelt wanted me to talk about that as it had to do with the Garden of Eden. And if you listen, if you read the scriptures closely enough, especially Genesis 1:1 and on through the first and second chapters of Genesis, you find out there really was a pre-existence. Okay, and I'm going to talk a Mormon theology. Okay, this is in the Hebrew. All right, has nothing to do with Mormon theology. Okay, I mean they picked up on some of this, but that's another story. Okay, so Adam was the first one in this epic, this epoch rather, this age, that God selected to be his Zadok, his righteous one, because he also was perfect in his generations. He was a perfect DNA man after God's creation, after God's formation of him, okay? He was the first Zadok. Now, we could talk about some others, but I'm just going to lay out a few along the line, okay? The next one that we really want to be concerned with, and I explain this in the description box, the next one for our purposes is Noah. The next one is Abraham. And there are some others in between, but these are the major ones. The next one is Jesus. And there's an argument about whether James was celibate or not. I don't believe he was. When he says that he was taking the mikvahs, the baths, to partially control his virtue, to maintain his virtue, that was the way Josephus and other historians, and Josephus may have actually known James, the way they interpreted what he said based upon their own condition, meaning Josephus and the Romans, was that he didn't have sex at all. Well, that's not what he was saying. And I've talked about James for a long time, that I do not believe he was celibate, that I do believe he was married for a lot of reasons, just like Jesus was. Because it would be wrong for them not to have seed from their righteous Zadok line. They would not put that aside and ignore it. And God's natural way of generation is between a man and a woman, not in a test tube, not in genetic manipulation by these scientists who are trying to play God. So that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but all those people were perfect in their generation, and God, that's why he selected that line. Now, this is the biblical point of view. You can agree with it or you cannot. I really don't care. But I want to point out that that's what they're trying to destroy by interjecting this stuff into us, so that you can't now, and we're in bad shape right now genetically anyway. We need another Zadok to come and reform our genetic code by instituting the perfect line. And that's what a lot of people probably don't understand the millennium is actually about. When those children are brought forth in a perfect genealogical, perfect genetic code, and it even says that your children shall live for 1,000 years to the age of a tree. Why? Because they'll be returned back to that original Zadok righteous line. Okay? So I know that disturbs a lot of people, but just think about it. Noah was perfect in his generations. Well, so was Adam. So was Abraham. So was Jesus. And James is, for that matter. And whoever comes next to reset this thing, and I maintain that it's Jesus himself, okay? That's who I maintain. When he comes back, he'll reset this. And it's in a natural way. It's not in a test tube, none of that stuff. It's between a man and a woman. And I know that's just got Christians all over the place pulling their hair out. But God doesn't diss his own creation, which is why I also said in a video a few days ago that you shouldn't denigrate your body, your flesh. Those passions are to be controlled. They're not evil. As I point out in the description box, and as I pointed out in my video about this whole thing, about the flesh is bashar, and it comes from the root meaning that it gives you joy that the spirit can't complete. And that's why I also said being with God and not having a mate is not exactly where you're supposed to be. Because if God wanted you to only have him, he would not have created Eve, because Adam needed a companion. What did it say? And I mentioned this in the other video a few days ago. It is not good for man to be alone. Let us make a helpmeet for him. Well, God was with Adam in the Garden of Eden. If all you need is God in heaven, why did God create Eve? And some Christian theologians say, because that was the sin, it was the making fall. No, that's not it at all. And I've talked about the image of God, male and female, and all that before. But anyway, so to end this, I fixed the problem finally in the description box and in the comment section. Hopefully the AI is not going to screw with it or somebody else and then take this whole thing down because of that video in the comment section. But at least I've gotten the information out. And a lot of you will have a lot of problems with what I've just said right now, but the scriptures say it, not me. I'm just pointing it out to you, okay? There is nothing in the description box, well, there should be now. I think they're playing with it, okay? If not, don't worry about the description box. Go into the comment section. If it's not there, I will try to reboot. I'll take down, I won't take down the videos. What I'll do is I'll go back and try to edit the information, okay? All right, okay, out here for now.